All right, everybody, welcome back to the Beans No Ball podcast. Welcome to the 11th episode. It's late, we're both tired. Let's just get right into it right here.
Yeah, we're doing another late episode, but obviously that's not gonna stop us. We obviously we gotta get these episodes up whenever we can and the earliest we can. So being tired and very exhausted is not gonna get in the way of that. So this is the 11th episode of the Beat Football Podcast. So you guys already know how it is. We officially passed week 9 of the 2022 to 2023 NFL season. So we're gonna be going over the games from Sunday and Monday's game, and then we're gonna move right along to the Week 10 preview, and obviously going along with our cumulative records of our game-winning picks from the season. So to start things off, let's get the Thursday nighter. Very surprising. This Thursday nighter was actually pretty interesting. It was actually, I think it was tied 14-14 at half. So I thought it was going to be a pretty decent game, but I wouldn't say the Eagles were struggling. Well, I mean, I would say the Eagles were kind of struggling against the defense. I mean, not the defense, against the Texans. I mean, it was tight game at halftime, which is pretty surprising. Eagles, they are the best team in the league right now, 8-0. So obviously everyone expected it to be a blowout against these Texans, but surprisingly, it was a very close game. It was only an 8-point game. So I don't know if Philly fans should start being worried, a little more cautious about their team, or if they should be fine. But I mean, Philly's schedule is pretty easy. They got a couple winning teams up in the remaining schedule, including the Cowboys. So that should be good. Other than that, it was just another really great game by Jalen Hurts, and Dallas Goedert had another great game. Jalen Hurts probably the front runner other than Josh Allen at MVP. And these Texans, man, really can't expect much from them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of just a good showing for them. They stayed in the fight. I mean, they after that 14-14, all they managed was a field goal, and the Eagles kind of ran away with it to stay undefeated, obviously. But I mean, they got they stayed in it. That's the most you can ask for them. And I mean, the way they're looking, I mean, they weren't even expected to do that. So I mean, good for them. I mean, the only other thing too is Dameon Pierce, who's been just kind of the only bright spot on this Texans team. Another great game for him, 27 carries and 139 yards. No touchdown for him, but I mean, still, that's he was basically the reason the Texans were in this game. He was just running wild, running mad. So a great showing for him. And yeah, like you said, Jalen Hurts really, I mean, even in a slow game, he was able to really take over in the end. So even when facing adversity, the Eagles still seem to look solid. And like you said, with a light record, with a light schedule coming up, you would expect them to kind of cruise into that 1 seed. I mean, sure, football's football, so they'll probably drop 1 or 2 surprising games here and there, but they should cruise to a 14-3, 15-2 record into the playoffs, I would say. And let's move right on into the Sunday slate, obviously. So first up, we got the Chargers at the Falcons. Another game which, obviously, the way both teams are looking, we knew was going to be close from the start, and the Chargers struggle kind of continued for the most part, I guess. If at the start of the year you would have thought this was an easy Chargers win, but it's just with a combine of injuries and just the Falcons kind of looking a little surprising as a nice sleeper team. It was close, obviously 14-10 at half, the Chargers up. And then going into the fourth, the Falcons were up 17-14, but the Chargers were able to get 2 field goals, and obviously the game winner right at the end by Dicker the kicker, just obviously in for the injured Dustin Hopkins. It was just a great win overall with a team who's struggling, like I said, with all these injuries. I mean, obviously Mike Thomas out right now. I mean, no, Mike Williams. He's kind of been the main guy that Herbert's been targeting, and without him, he kind of had to spread the ball out more, and it worked out for the most part. He got Palmer 106 yards, which he's been getting up there in the depth chart for the Chargers, and obviously he's going to take on a big role in the next couple weeks. But For the most part, I mean, it was a good game for the Chargers. The defense finally started to show out a little more like you would have expected, and they're back up to 5-3. So who knows what they could do in this AFC West?
Yeah, I mean, regardless of this Chargers win, I would say it is I would say it was another sloppy win by these Chargers winning on another game-winning field goal. I mean, the Chargers, they're just that team. They're just like a little inconsistent. Yes, they're 5-3, and they're third in the, no, they're second in the AFC West, correct? Yeah, third, right?
Second, yeah.
Second,
You got the Broncos and the Raiders.
Yeah, the Broncos. I forgot about that. Yeah, they're second in the AFC West. So I mean, that is a good sign for Chargers fans and obviously the Chargers for playoff hopes. But I mean, if the Chargers are gonna have to rely on game-winning field goals most of the time, they're not gonna go far in the playoffs, or yet let alone can't speak, or let alone try and make a deep run in the playoffs. Justin Herbert. I mean, he had a decently okay game, 245 yards and a touchdown. But I mean, if he's just gonna be like, he's inconsistent with these throws, and obviously Austin Eckler, he had a great game as well. But Austin Eckler is really the reason most of the Chargers are winning, kind of. The run game with him, Justin Herbert. I mean, he's a very likable guy. Don't get me wrong, but he still has a lot to prove. He hasn't went to the playoffs yet. We still need to see what he's made of so far, and so far he hasn't proved any of that. But still, they're 5-3. They're okay, second in the division. Realistically, the Chargers. I mean, Brandon Stanley. I mean, I don't think he's a good coach. Just the way he's been handling things right now. I mean, again, like I said, the 5-3. But I mean, there's a lot of inconsistency going around with the team. And then with the Falcons, they looked well in the first drive, but after that, they couldn't get anything going after the second half. One touchdown, but shut out in the fourth quarter, so that really hurt them. So they're no longer first place in the South because of that. I think so, right? Because the Bucks are first now. Yeah. So I mean, hey, if anything, Falcons could possibly turn it around. Especially, I mean, they come in this game 4-4. So I mean, hey, anything can happen on any given Sunday. So, and then moving right along to another very nice close game. The Dolphins at the Bears. Dolphins just came away with this win at 35-32. Tua Tagovailoa had another great game, 302 yards, 3 touchdowns. Little miscues here and there. Tyreek Hill, obviously the focal point of this offense, other than Jalen Waddle and Tua. 7 catches, 143 yards, and a touchdown. Really, that chemistry between them, and he's the leader in receiving yards. So it's a really good sign for Dolphins fans. 6-3, honestly, a lot of people had their doubts after Tua went down. The Dolphins season was going to go to shambles. 3-0 went down to 3-3, and now they're on the 3-game win streak. So this is a great sign for the Dolphins. I really didn't expect this to be a very close game against the Bears. That I think it was a 61 rush touchdown by Justin Fields that really brought the momentum back. So I would say because of that, it was a very close game. But obviously the Bear, what's it called? Regardless of not scoring in the fourth for the Dolphins and the Bears outscoring them by 1 touchdown, they still came in with this dub. The Dolphins defense came in clutch, very, very good when it obviously mattered. Dolphins moving on to 6-3, first in their division, or is it the Jets? No, I'm sorry, the Bills. They're second. Yeah, they're second in the division. So I mean, hey, the AFC is looking good. Same with the NFC. A lot of 6-2, 6-3 teams. These Bears, Justin Fields, he is looking better. So I mean, the future is bright for these Chicago Bears, but obviously there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, not too much more on that. Just Tua did look a little sloppy at times, as for the most part. Easily a great game by Justin Fields and a loss here. Just both running and throwing. You see the 61-yard rushing touchdown. It was a great effort for the Bears. Obviously they weren't expected to really do much in this game, but they were up for a little bit. Well, no, they weren't really up, but they were in the game for the most part, and obviously they cut it close, cut it all the way down once they were into the fourth quarter. The Dolphins didn't do any scoring in the fourth, obviously, so it was close. I was honestly somewhat expecting the Bears to kind of run away with this in the end, but luckily for our predictions, they didn't. So apart from that, even with his slight little struggles, Tua did manage to do enough to get the win, obviously, and it was, I mean, just great overall for the Dolphins. They seem to be bouncing back pretty good after that little skid with Tua's injury. And let's move on. Let's go for another game that the score really doesn't do it justice. The Panthers at the Bengals. The Bengals were up 35-0 at half, and then all of a sudden they kind of let up. It ended up being 42-7 after 3, and Panthers ended up getting 2 more touchdowns to make it 42-21. Looks a little closer, but in the end, it was the Bengals just absolutely demolished the Panthers. Just the season just begins to really unravel for the Panthers here, and just a really poor performance overall. And let's just talk about Joe Mixon, man. Just absolutely insane game from him. 5 touchdowns overall, 4 of them rushing, and I mean, what do you get, like 50 fantasy points this weekend? Just
I think he did get
absolutely insane like that.
Don't look, the fantasy owners must be very happy because of that. So
I mean, Carvajal got a big loss just because of that. So I mean, yeah, obviously that's just major from him. And obviously Joe Burrow, nothing too crazy. 206 yards, 1 touchdown, but you know, obviously when Mixon carried the load there, that's all they really needed. I mean, it was over by halftime. I mean, they had 4 touchdowns in the second quarter alone. So, I mean, yeah, not too much to say. It kind of went how we expected with a pretty smooth Bengals victory. Obviously, absolutely picking apart the Panthers. So, I mean, yeah, it's just the Bengals are kind of starting to pick up a groove here, and I mean, let's see how they contend in that really tough AFC North.
I mean, yeah, I mean, really, when I saw the Panthers still getting shut out in the second half, I mean, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, technically still in the second half, you know, second half returning, they're still shut out. You know, Joe Mixon did carry the load here, man. 150 yards, 153 yards and 4 touchdowns. Really, they got that run game getting that run game going early. Really did benefit them, and then really let the pressure down on Joey B. He still managed to get 206 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, I would say it's still a pretty good game for him. I mean, we had hopes for the Panthers. You and me did have hopes for the Panthers. Acquiring Baker Mayfield to see what he's doing, how he would do. But sadly, he just wasn't enough. You know, they had to bring in PJ Walker in.
Wish they did bring Baker back after PJ really didn't do that good. But
yeah,
garbage time, so not much.
Yeah, so PJ didn't do so well. And then as soon as they put Baker in, I mean, they really make a difference. I mean, the 21 points was just garbage time. You know, the Bengals kind of just like played more softer against these Panthers, because I mean, the win was basically secure, but I mean, the game's not over till it's 0. But I mean, in this case, it doesn't matter. Mixon's 5 touchdowns really benefited this Bengals. So I mean, 5-4 in this AFC North, really just competing with these Ravens, and it's gonna be a little tough since the Ravens are a little hot right now, and these Panthers, man, it was once again another very disappointing game by them. Moving on to another very disappointing game. We have the Packers at the Lions, a very nice historic NFC North matchup. Sadly, the Packers once again could not get anything done, and these Lions beat the Packers 15-9. So again, I mean, it was a pretty close game, and it was an 8-point game. I'm sorry, 8-point game. My math's a little bad right now. It was a 6-point game. Sorry.
It was an 8.
It was a 6-point game. So I mean, it was very close. I mean, the Packers, they couldn't get anything done on their final drive. It was just a really boring game, back and forth. But Aaron Rodgers with those 3 picks, man, Aaron Rodgers, he's done, man. This game really proved that he's washed. Obviously the past games have been proved already, but this game alone just proved that he's done for it, man. Like, he's not the same as he was. He probably should have retired. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's missing Devontae at this point, but I mean, it doesn't really matter with Devontae and the Raiders. They're still doing bad. Not as bad as the Packers, but still. Regardless, this was nothing else much to say, but these Packers are really struggling, and for me as a Cowboys fan, obviously, I should feel really good about this. Really expect a blowout, but as with the Cowboys, they have a thing with letting like bad teams like do good on them, which annoys me the most. But I really hope that does not happen this Sunday when we go to Lambeau Field. Really expect to win there, but we'll talk about that in the predictions. But it was a great win by the Lions. I don't really see the Lions making a very huge playoff run here. 2-6. They're, what is it, 4 or 5 games behind the Vikings. So it's impossible at that point, and the Packers just looking really, really bad.
Yeah, I mean, just that's basically it right there. Just a really poor showing by the Packers. I mean, obviously I expected them to fall off somewhat this year, just from the start, just like how I predicted. But I mean, nothing like this. I mean, it's pretty surprising to see them go like this. I mean, even though I took the Lions in this game, it was more of me just trying to be bold and just throw in some interesting pick into it, and I mean it worked out for me, I guess. But I mean, it's really surprising to see just I mean, what can you say? It's just a really poor look for the Packers. I mean, they're just like what, half a game above the Lions right now, just because they have that third win. But right now is it 5 in a row that they've dropped since? I think
it is 5 in a row. First time
5 in a row.
2008, I believe.
First time since 2008. It's just looking really bad. I mean, you would think obviously with Rodgers probably out after this year, and just how weak everything else looks on that team, they're probably going for a somewhat of a rebuild after this, and it's gonna be some tough times for Packers fan for a while. And I mean, as for the Lions, it's a good win. It's a nice morale boost, but it's obviously still going to be a pretty rough season for them too. I mean, this does show that they got that ability to just, because the defense, it looked great. Obviously, those 3 picks. It's against a struggling quarterback, but it was a great showing by the defense, kind of as what I was hoping would happen for my prediction. But a great game for them overall, despite a weak opponent. But yeah, not much to go off from there. And just to move on, we got another historic matchup: the Colts and the Patriots. Obviously, both falling from their usual graces of years past, but just another. I mean, it was just a boring game for the most part. It was just the Colts getting absolutely blown out. I took the Colts thinking maybe Sam Ehlinger would, have a nice little coming out party, but nothing going for him. It was obviously just nothing but a field goal in the third quarter, which that's more of what you've expected from the Colts. I mean, you expect them to see if they would hit their groove. It's kind of unfortunate to see, obviously, at least for me, just because of Michael Pittman not really able to get anything going throughout this season with such struggles at the quarterback position. Obviously, they just can't seem to get it right. I mean, as for the Patriots, they're kind of hitting their groove again. Obviously, now back above 500 after a couple tough games in that little quarterback controversy between Zappe and Jones. But obviously, Mac Jones is back in that starting spot fully, and he's somewhat proving himself again. Obviously, just a really solid double-digit victory here. And also one final thing about the Colts: they have fired head coach Frank Reich, who's been there since 2018. It's kind of hard to really see who's really at fault. I mean, sure, it probably was time to move on from Frank Reich, but if you really think about it, how much help has he really had to really succeed? If you see the quarterbacks he's been given, I mean, he had Andrew Luck his first year, went to the playoffs. After he retired, what are they really giving him? Phillip Rivers on his last legs, Matt Ryan now, Jacoby Brissett. I think you wouldn't really expect him to succeed with the tools he's been given, and obviously at this point, I mean, he's done, and I don't really think any head coach would be able to save this team. And now they brought in an analyst with no coaching experience in the former Pro Bowl center Jeff Saturday. And so, I mean, we'll see. This is probably just going to be a really rough end to the season for the Colts.
Yeah, I mean, this was another team where we had high hopes for. With the acquiring Matt Ryan in the offseason, we really expected it to be a decent season for the Colts, probably making a run in the AFC South, but Obviously, we saw Matt Ryan after those first couple games. He couldn't do anything. Got that one, I would say, lucky win against the Chiefs. But other than that, he just really couldn't put up anything. And he had one other good game. That's pretty much it. But I mean, that Colts offensive line, I mean, it's still also bad. They give up 9 sacks against those Colts. I mean, they're 3-5-1. How many games have they been? The Titans like 3-4, I would say. I think so. Doesn't really make a difference. I mean, the Colts are probably other than the Jags, they're probably the second worst team in the, not second, actually, they're probably the second best in this division, right up with the Jaguars and the Texans. But it was regardless of this Patriots win, they're 5-4. I mean, it seemed to turn around and back, but it was a pretty, stats wise, I would say it's a mediocre game for Mac Jones. 147 yards, a touchdown. But I mean, regardless, they got the win against these Colts. It should have been an easy win for them. That defense played a major part in this victory. The Patriots defense, it has been a little bit inconsistent this season, but this game they turned it around, and hopefully they possibly make a run in the division. Speaking of the AFC East, we have the Bills and the Jets, another great matchup, and this was another a stunning upset for both of us, actually. So the Bills just lose by 3 to these Jets. Sauce Gardner had another good game, but Stephon Diggs, he did go out for 93 yards, but I think he was shut down in the second half, which was a pretty eye-opener. He only had 3 targets that whole half. In a division game like this and the way they were down, you would expect Stephon Diggs to have at least 10 plus targets, maybe a little more. Josh Allen, I mean, he had 2 interceptions, 2 bad interceptions. Those interceptions looked like his rookie year in 2018, with he was really bad at throwing. He was throwing picks here and there. So it's kind of like a reminiscent of 2018 rookie Josh Allen. Really all he could do was he got 2 touchdowns on the ground. He really struggled passing wise. The defense, obviously the defense tried its best to try and contain its will. But they couldn't finish off in the fourth quarter. Josh Allen couldn't get the offense going. Stephon Diggs obviously shut down. These Jets, man, the biggest surprise of the year, First, it was with Sauce Gardner. Obviously, looking like a reminiscent of Darrelle Revis. For Breece Hall, we don't know what happened now with his ACL injury, so he's out. But regardless, these Jets, man, they have a talented roster. Zach Wilson, though, he's pretty much getting carried this whole time. The quarterback getting carried. If this is the case, I don't think the Jets got a strong playoff for it. Don't get me wrong, but is Zach Wilson, is he going to contribute? And they really got to rely on the defense, especially Sauce Gardner. They're really going to struggle in the first round, but regardless of that, we still got a long season ahead. These Jets, I expect much from them. The Bills, the Bills are going to bounce back. It's not a big deal, but still is a very, very upsetting loss for the Bills.
Yeah, just like them, you took it mostly. It's just, you expected the Bills to come back pretty strong. They do have a really tough matchup with the Vikings next, so we'll see how that looks. But for the most part, the story of this game was the Jets defense. As you said, Sauce Gardner really just shutting down the Bills receivers and keeping them in check for the most part. That first half, obviously, they got 2 touchdowns, so that, nothing too crazy. Obviously, they were still in the game, only down 14-10. But in the second half, holding them to no touchdowns, nothing but a field goal, and obviously the Jets pulling away, getting 10 points again in the second half. So not too much to say. It was just a surprising great win for the Jets. So that defense is looking strong. It is pretty top heavy in the AFC this year, so we'll see what about their chances getting into the playoffs. But if they do, who knows if they might be able to make a run. It's football, and this season everything's looking possible. So we'll see how they look going forward. And let's go to another pretty surprising game in the Vikings at the Commanders, which another 20-17 score. This time the Vikings did get to pull away with this one, but man, how they made it look pretty close when it really shouldn't be against this Commanders team. That's kind of eye-opening to see them falter this much. But in the end, Kirk Cousins did have a respectable enough game, 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I guess probably one of the reasons it was kind of slow. Dalvin Cook did have a really slow game with 17 carries and 47 yards. No touchdowns, obviously, for him, but it was I mean, it was pretty slow overall, 7-3 at half, and the Commanders slowly picked it up, got 2 touchdowns in the second half, but the Vikings, they got 1 touchdown and 2 field goals to kind of just counter on their own, and that's all they needed. It was a slow, I guess you could kind of say, just kind of like how the Eagles looked. They played a lesser opponent, maybe played down to the level a little bit, but did enough to pull out the win. And I mean, obviously another great game for Justin Jefferson with 115 yards and a touchdown. That probably was the difference. When you have such a top tier receiver like that.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much summed it up. Pretty much obviously took the words out of my mouth with this analysis with this game, because I mean, yeah, it was a pretty slow game to begin with. I mean, just at halftime it was 7-3 at half. Vikings were shut out in the third quarter, and it really just came down to the fourth. We saw that one touchdown, I think it was the Commanders, where the ref got in the way of the Vikings defensive back. So yeah, I don't know if that really played. I mean, obviously it did depict a big part of the game, but I mean, in all honesty, that ref should be fired permanently, because I mean, honestly, that play could have costed the Vikings the game. But luckily, Captain Kirk came back obviously with this win. It was a great game by the Vikings. It should not have been this close, though. Don't get me wrong. It should not have been this close to the Commanders. I mean, Taylor Heinicke has earned everyone's respect that he is very okay QB, but that's pretty much the only reason the Commanders were in this game was because of Taylor Heinicke. It's really just a quarterback situation with these Commanders. But regardless of that, the Vikings move on to the sixth consecutive win. We saw how Kirk Cousins was in the plane, all iced out, seeing how he was happy over that one. So very good for these Vikings, and it's looking like your prediction is going well. Looks like they're most likely gonna win the NFC North, no doubt about that. Another phenomenal game by Justin Jefferson, really helping me in fantasy, but couldn't help me much this week. But great win for the Vikings. And moving on to probably our biggest upset of the week, the Raiders against the Jaguars. The Raiders are up 17-0 and they lose 27-20. This is another very disappointing game by the Raiders. Derek Carr showing that he's just not a good QB. And obviously, I'm saying that right now because, I mean, Derek Carr, don't get me wrong, the coaching is horrible. It's really, really bad. Josh McDaniels is a very bad head coach. I don't know what was going on with the Raiders front office on hiring him. Even Patriots fans knew he wasn't going to succeed. And I'm saying this again. We already saw how his tenure was as the Broncos head coach. He was very bad. Most coordinators are very good coordinators, but not good head coaches. The fact that the Raiders blew another lead this season just proves how much that coaching is going wrong, and how each of these teams, both sides of the ball, Derek Carr, they can't finish. Devontae Adams had another spectacular game. 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. It looked very good, but Travis Etienne, he did help these Jaguars come back a bit, rushing for 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, having 28 touches. So this second half, the Jaguars really turned it around, and it really surprised me too, as I'm watching this game. I'm like, there's absolutely no way these Jaguars are coming back. And the Raiders had that one final attempt on 4th down, and they just couldn't do it. They have yet to get a win on the road. They're 0-5 right now. The Jaguars are 2-3 at home, and the Raiders can't even get 2 dubs right now. And it's all at home, 2-6. They're bad on the road. It's just that simple, even at home. But regardless, the Raiders. I already expected the Raiders to have a bad season coming up, but the Jaguars did. Very good for the Jaguars coming up. Very surprising still. I'm still in awe that they came back from this, but both teams still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's basically really just starting to unravel for the Raiders. I had obviously said that I did think they were better than their record. They were probably one of the better teams with this bad record, obviously, because of their pretty tough schedule for the most part. But the more we watch, the more the season goes on, it kind of just looked like they might just be a pretty bad team overall. And we'll see. I don't know, kind of still starting to debate if they are any better than the Broncos. They probably aren't. I know they're playing them. I don't know if it's this week or next week, so we'll kind of get a look at that in the future. But I mean, what can you say? It's just really really disappointing. Obviously, they expected big things from Derek Carr and Devontae Adams, and for whatever reason, Josh McDaniels too. But I mean, it was it was a decent game. Obviously, they were up 17-0, and they got the stats. I mean, pretty much just empty stats to show for it. I mean, 260 yards and 2 touchdowns for Carr, and 150 and 2 touchdowns obviously for Devontae. So I mean that connection's strong enough, but when you can't get the win, I mean this is their third blown 17-0 or 17-point lead this season, which I mean that just tells you all you need to know. I mean they're good enough to get leads. They just have they just have no finishing ability to close the games out. And I mean when you play like that, I mean having a lead means nothing if you can't close the game out. So that's I mean we'll see how the Raiders look in the end. It's just not looking good overall. But move on to another big divisional matchup in the Seahawks and the Cardinals. The surprising Seahawks. They're I mean the team of the year right now. The biggest surprise, and Geno Smith leading the Seahawks to another really great win. Obviously, Kyler couldn't do much. I mean, it was a good game for the most part. Only a 10-point game, 31-21. But I mean, it's just a great game for Geno. 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and so I mean, how much can we say about Kenneth Walker, the star rookie running back for the Seahawks? 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's really carrying the workload with Geno, and I mean, just really great game. I mean, it was somewhat slow to start. It was 10 to 7 at half, but they really picked it up. 3 more touchdowns in the second half, and that really gave them separation from the Cardinals to just really pull away. And I mean, not much else to say. The Seahawks are looking like they may run away with the NFC West like they have in years past. Obviously not expecting my Rams to do much, and I mean maybe the Niners if they start giving them a fight, but it's looking like the Seahawks, unfortunately for me.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is the surprising team of the year, and I'm gonna bring it back once again. Once the Seahawks announced that Geno was starting, all Seahawks fans basically lost hope. But obviously, we see now that he's really proving everybody wrong. He had another great game, especially with the help of Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is probably another big name right now in the league right now. He's being one of the talented rookies so far, 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, it's looking really good for the Seahawks, 6-3, top of the NFC West. You really expected this to come down to the Rams and Niners, but obviously from the looks of it, both teams are struggling now a bit. But Seahawks, man, really proving it wrong. And this was another divisional battle. I mean, Cardinals, I mean, this is another surprise too. I mean, we expected the Cardinals to at least be somewhat decent, but obviously they obviously can't get the job done right now with Kyler Murray. Really had another bad game. I mean, they tried coming back in the second half. It seemed neck to neck, but they just couldn't finish strong in the fourth quarter. That defense kind of sold a bit. But regardless, the Seahawks team's probably looking deadly right now. They beat the Red Hot Giants last week, and now they beat once again on a division rival. So, I mean, this is looking really good for Seahawks, especially Seahawks fans. It's looking really great. Hopefully they finish strong this season, which I'm very hopeful for that. So it was a great game. All right, so we're just closing up the recap. So we have our next very disappointing game, the Rams at the Buccaneers. So David, I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one. I really don't expect much from you anymore from this.
Of course, yeah. I mean, what can I say? It was looking good. Obviously, for the most part, we held the lead up until 9 seconds to go. So I mean, the defense just absolutely showed out. I mean, one of our best defensive performances by far. It was, I mean, holding the Bucks to 3 field goals. I mean, I was feeling really good. Sure. I mean, I will say sure. Yeah, the defense completely sold on that last drive, playing like the softest coverage imaginable, just playing like zone way back. I mean, I don't know what Raheem Morris was doing, and I don't know what what we were doing overall. It looked ugly, but um, just like Jalen Ramsey said, the defense shouldn't have had to go back out there for another possession. I mean, once they stopped them and got him stopped him to a field goal, and what yeah, to the field goal that made it 13-9. You would think it was finally they were finally gonna just ice it, but the absolutely abysmal run game for the Rams just just ran three stupid little plays and punted the ball right back to Tom Brady, getting him great field position. I mean, I'm not gonna say much. I mean, Matthew Stafford didn't get a turnover. That's like the best I could say about this game. He's been holding it that much down for the most part, but it was just ugly. We had one touchdown, and we probably should have had like at least 3 touchdowns. The way we would set up plays, but our red zone offense is just horrible. So I mean, can't do much there. And I mean, I have nothing to say about the defense. They played great. Sure, they sold out on one drive, but you're always going to have at least one drive that you give up, big points. And it was ugly, but I mean, whatever. At this point, it's fuck it and move on. We'll see. We got the Cardinals next, which usually that's a good matchup for us. But the way it's looking, who knows? So yeah, not much for me. Hope for improvement from these guys.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much summed it up. I mean, the defense was doing really well in the beginning, but they just really shit the bucket, in the second half. Regardless, it was 2 struggling teams coming in to the game, so it was gonna be 2-sided regardless. But Bucks came out with the clutch drive from Tom Brady. That defense against soft coverage for some reason. I don't know what the defensive game plan was, but pretty much wrapped it up. I mean, these Rams, I guess that Super Bowl hangover is, really getting to them. And, finally coming to our final game of the Sunday slate, we have the Titans and the Chiefs. Now, this was another very great game. At first, this was looking like it could have been the Titans game. They were up 14 to 9.5, and then Travis Kelce was having his little rant, being a little upset during the game. But, Patrick Mahomes, doing what he does best, turned his Chiefs team around and sent it into overtime. But, him coming in clutch in the pocket, escaping that in the final play, really, to that tight end, I forgot his name, but really, really clutched up for that field goal win. And another 400-plus yard game for Patrick Mahomes, carrying it with 1 touchdown. Another 100-yard game for Travis Kelce. Derrick Henry did get 115 yards, but it wasn't enough to help the Titans win. We knew it was going to be a great game. I really didn't expect it to be a blowout. It was going to be very, very close, and it was very close, and it was very, very good. But the Chiefs just came out on top with Mahomes magic, and then that defense of the Chiefs with this little miscues and inconsistency, it came in clutch during came in clutch during overtime, and it was really good to see some hope for the Chiefs defense, since that defense it was iffy. I mean, they're 6-2 with a very inconsistent defense, so I mean, it's pretty good, don't get me wrong. But the Titans, they're 5-3. I mean, they're still top in the division, so regardless of that, I mean, it's still a bad loss, but Chiefs also top of the division, so great. It was just a great game overall.
Yeah, I mean, you summed that up pretty good. Just obviously this 5-game win streak for the Titans is over now, and I mean, so I wasn't watching the game for the most part until about overtime because I was out. But some would say that the Titans were robbed, obviously, from the 2-point conversion calls at the end that kept. I think they ended up getting a third try at it, and I mean, finally by then the Chiefs were able to convert. But I mean, who knows if they didn't get to convert, then they wouldn't have to go to overtime, and the Titans would have just come away with a big win here. But they didn't. So in the end, the Chiefs did come away with, I mean, like you said, a nice field goal to win the game for them, and this is what we expected. And obviously another just a great Mahomes game, and even though what we usually say, Derrick Henry, when he goes off, it gives the Titans the win. Obviously, when you're playing a team like the Chiefs, it's gonna take a little more than that, and they probably could have, they probably should have ended up winning this game when you think about the refs' performance. But in the end, football's football, and the refs are gonna be pretty shitty overall. So that's how it turned out, and just a great win for the Chiefs against another team they could possibly see in the playoffs. And obviously, to close out our recap here, we got our Monday nighter with the Ravens and the Saints. Just a pretty straightforward matchup here. We see just a pretty smooth win for the Ravens. It was pretty average. I mean, it kind of looked how it was going to be from the start. 14-3 at half. Not much that the Saints could have done. They did end up getting a touchdown in the fourth quarter, but I mean, game was basically wrapped up by then. Not much going for them overall. I mean, Andy Dalton had a respectable game with 210 yards and a touchdown. But I guess the main story here was Kenyon Drake. Didn't really crack 100 yards at 93, but he did get 2 touchdowns on the ground. So that was the main thing here, and that obviously helped me in my other fantasy league, getting me a couple points. At least in that league, I'm doing a little better. Actually, in second place, not like our league here, but and just overall the acquisition of the acquisition of all these defensive pieces for the Ravens is really helping them. I'm sure it's against the Saints, but I mean when they get when they start playing teams from kind of playoff teams in the AFC North, there you'll see how they really stand. But they're hot right now, so I'm expecting kind of just the Ravens to really hit their groove at this midway point of the season.
I mean, like you said, it is the Saints, but I mean, regardless, it's still a very great win for the Ravens. Lamar finally getting back into his great rhythm. So I mean, the Ravens are moving up. Obviously, it's great. I mean, thank God I didn't choose the Saints, because I was having the thoughts of picking the Saints. But I mean, hey, it is Andy Dalton, and he always has inconsistent games, I should say. And this game was just one of them. That one pick at the line of scrimmage that he threw at the fourth quarter really changed the momentum. I mean, after that, they really couldn't fix anything else to move forward. And I mean, Jameis, he was supposed to be the focal point of this offense. Possibly making a run for them. We saw how he was. Earlier in the season. But I mean, regardless, it's just a really bad game overall by the Saints. You pretty much covered it up. But the Ravens, they're looking deadly in the AFC. So that wraps up our Week 9 recap. So, and before we move on to the Week 10 preview, how about we go, David? Let's go over our cumulative records for the season so far.
Yeah, so I mean, Week 9, we did well. I guess you could say that you went 10-3, I went 9-4. So got a little upper hand this week. I mean, overall, I still hold the upper hand. I'm 80-56 overall, and you are 77-59. So obviously, after we had a kind of a stumble back around week 2, week 3, it's kind of picking up now. Where our predictions are getting better. We're up there, kind of double digits for the most part every week, so it's looking better. I guess we'll see how much that fares this week. On bye, obviously we got a little less than last week, so we'll have a couple more games to talk about, but be the Ravens, Bengals, Patriots, and Jets. So a couple I think, but basically all of them are still pretty big contenders for the playoffs, so get them some rest and see how they get set for week 11. So let's just start the preview right off with Thursday night. It's pretty straightforward game, I guess. It's a divisional game, so there's always that, but it's an NFC South matchup. So it's the Falcons at the Panthers. I think it's a pretty easy call for the most part to say that the Falcons will win this one. I guess you can't ever say easily, because I mean you remember that game just 2 weeks ago, that the infamous DJ Moore throwing his helmet and throwing the game away for the Panthers. So that I mean, that you think of that game for reference, but I think this time the Falcons are just gonna really pull away instead, and they'll get back to 500 with probably a pretty good game from Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, obviously we're coming to a consensus early right now, but yeah, I'm going with the Falcons on this one. We already see how the Panthers are, and they're looking very, very bad with all the miscues, all this, just what's going on. It's just that the organization is just in shambles. So we really didn't expect much. I mean, the way the way Atlanta has been playing so far, I mean, they're really just the favorites for this game, and I will also have to pick them. So, and then now moving on to our Sunday slate, we have our first Germany game. I think it's our first Germany game of the season,
First ever
correct?
game in Germany.
Our first ever Germany game, and that is going to be the Seattle Seahawks at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I feel like this is going to be a great game, don't get me wrong, but from the way that Seattle has been playing, obviously, I will go with Seattle. You know, Geno Smith, I feel like he'll get the upper hand against the GOAT Tom Brady. And these Bucks, and just with Kenneth Walker, with having him at running back, it's just gonna be like a nice, easy, smooth going win for Seattle.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you again. This is, I mean, who knows? I mean, in a different point of the season, probably would have taken the Bucks, but I mean, just you see how they look. Sure, they're coming off of a loss. I mean, off a big win against the Rams. So I mean, you see that it was. I mean, sure, Tom Brady leading a nice game-winning drive, but yeah, I'm gonna have to say, these high-flying Seahawks in a nice new setting in Germany, a wonderful the Allianz Arena, home of Bayern Munich. Obviously, I know a lot about that soccer stuff, but yeah, it'll be a great setting for the NFL. Hoping to see a lot more international games like this, but yeah, so Seahawks win there. And moving on, our actual kind of back in the U.S. the Sunday slate. Got probably the game of the week right here. Surprised it's not a Sunday nighter, but it's a 10 a.m. game. Got the Vikings at the Bills. Probably the two of the best teams in the league, apart from the Eagles. And it's a tough call for me, honestly. I think I'm gonna have to go with the Bills here after they come off of a really tough loss against the Jets. I don't really see Josh Allen struggling after a game like that, and sure, the Vikings are flying high, but you see how they looked against the Commanders. I mean, it's kind of tough to see. This is a possible Super Bowl matchup, so I mean, this is obviously a big game to look out for. But I'm gonna have to say the Bills take the upper hand here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you once again. The Bills, obviously, we see how the Bills are after they lost when they lost their first game, they came back again and they win the next game. I feel like this is gonna be exactly how it is. So I feel like this game they're gonna crush the Minnesota's win streak. I think it's just 6. Yeah, they're gonna crush I have a feeling they're gonna crush the 6-game win streak. Obviously Minnesota's still gonna be on top, but I mean the Bills. I feel like Josh Allen's gonna play a little angry with the really atrocious performance he had last week. Obviously, I will say again this week on this past Sunday against the Jets. So I feel like Buffalo could possibly turn it around this game. So I'm going with Buffalo. The next game we have a pretty, I would say, double-sided game. We have the Detroit Lions at Chicago. This should be another interesting 10 a.m. game. We have two teams that are pretty inconsistent, but a little sleeper team here and there in some games. But with this game, I'm gonna have to go with Chicago. Still coming in. Chicago is the number one rush offense in the league, coming in with a top 3 pass offense. And with that abysmal Detroit defense, I feel like Chicago's just gonna run right through them. So I'm gonna stick with Chicago with this W.
Yeah, gonna have to agree with you again. Pretty straightforward prediction so far. It's you just see how Justin Fields has been looking, and I mean I think he's gonna really continue this against, like you said, a really struggling defense in Detroit. I mean, and you see the Lions are 0-3 on the road. I don't really see that changing here. I think it's gonna be a real good atmosphere at Soldier Field for the Bears, and just really see a great game, both throwing and on the ground for Justin Fields. And moving on, I guess I would say another straightforward matchup. We got Broncos at the Titans. which for me, I'm gonna have to say the Broncos kind of fall back down to earth after that win in London against the Jaguars. Which, I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know. It could be a more evenly matched up, but it's you see how the Titans have been looking. It's they came back up after their kind of struggles at the beginning of the year, but and we'll still see what they have to do if Ryan Tannehill comes back, or if they get Malik Willis. If Malik Willis kind of gets a stride going, because obviously he didn't really look that good in these last two games that they've played. I'm still gonna have to say the Titans. A pretty straightforward win. I mean, you just see how much the Broncos have struggled, and how the kind of lacking chemistry that he has with the Broncos. I'm probably gonna expect Derrick Henry to just really go off against this defense, especially now that they lost Bradley Chubb. So yeah, it gives give me a pretty big Titans win here, probably around 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the Titans probably win by a little more, especially coming off a loss from a game that they potentially could have won, but obviously they fell back just a little short. I mean, against this really bad, not bad, but I would say this really obscure, mediocre Denver team, with the way Russell Wilson has been leading this offense, and the Denver defense has been pretty decent, but this offense just can't get it going, and we're already a little over mid-season of the little past mid-season already, and Nathaniel Hackett not even knowing what he's doing at the head coaching position, and because of all those miscues, this is why Tennessee has the upper hand right here. And Derrick Henry, obviously if he gets going, it's obviously going to be well for the QB with Malik Willis. And I just got Tennessee winning this game. And the next game, it's a pretty straightforward game. Jacksonville at Kansas City. I mean, not really much to say. It's Kansas City, so obviously I'm going with the Chiefs on this game. They're really going to run through Jacksonville. Jacksonville did come obviously with the big win against the Raiders, coming back 17-0 at halftime, coming back 17-0. But I mean, it's Kansas City. I mean, I don't really expect an upset here, so I'm sticking with the Chiefs. Nothing else much to say about that.
Same for me. Can't really see the Chiefs losing to the Jaguars at Arrowhead. Just that atmosphere for them. It just seems to be a pretty easy call here. I mean, we both know the Jaguars were looking kind of surprising at first, but obviously they fell off pretty hard, and it's back to normal, I guess you would say, for this team. And I'm gonna just agree with you pretty quick and say the Chiefs have. I mean, this one could be close. You never know with football, but I'm gonna have to say a pretty straightforward Chiefs win here. And move on. We got this is probably another really really tight matchup. We got the Browns with the Dolphins. Records may say otherwise, but obviously we know how Jacoby Brissett has been leading this Browns team. I would have to say it's going to be a great game, especially you see Brissett and Tua, and then Nick Chubb for the Browns going to have a really good run game. Still, I'm going to have to say the high-flying Dolphins keep it rolling. Just you see the weapons Tua has, obviously Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and I see your favorite tight end in fantasy, Mike Gesicki. I'm gonna have to say a pretty close game, but the Dolphins coming out on top. Probably game being decided in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I also feel there's gonna be another good game. Cleveland. I mean, they've been pretty. The record, they're not bad for what their record says. They've had some pretty close games here and there. Especially and then having a big win against the Bengals a couple of weeks ago. So Cleveland isn't a very bad team overall, but obviously a lot of miscues, just like all the horrendous teams in the league so far. But I mean, it is Miami, with the two leading receivers, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So that defense is going to have a really hard time containing them. I wouldn't say it'll be that much of a close game if the offense really gets going. It really just depicts on the Miami defense, depending how consistent they are. So I got them winning, but I mean, at least a couple points. I want to say maybe a 10-point game, but sticking with Miami on this win. And then we're moving on to our next, almost closing our 10 a.m. games. This is another straightforward win. The Texans visiting the New York Giants. I mean, the New York Giants were red hot, but sadly the Seattle Seahawks ended their streak. But regardless of that, it is the Houston Texans, so I'm automatically going to pick the Giants regardless. It's just really the easy pick.
Yeah, I mean, gonna have to agree with you again. Don't think we disagreed yet, but yeah, you just see. I mean, sure, the Texans had a pretty great game against obviously a divisional opponent for these Giants and the Eagles. They played them good. They played them close, but obviously close isn't enough in this league. And you see the Giants coming off a bye, coming off just obviously they're still in that really good hot streak. I would have to expect the Giants to come away with this one. It's probably going to be a really big game for Saquon with that Texans defense. And no, not too much more to say here. It just seems a straightforward Giants win here. You know, really it gets them to 7-2. Probably one of their best records since back when Eli Manning was really manning these guys. So up next, just our final 10 a.m. game, and probably the least anticipated out of all. We got the Saints at the Steelers. It's just a really boring matchup overall. You got Andy Dalton against Kenny Pickett. You know, as much as my heart wants to take the Steelers, I'm gonna have to say the Saints. I think Andy Dalton has. I mean, sure he's looking pretty mediocre, but he's done well for what it's worth. So I'm gonna have to say the Saints take an upper hand. I think this pretty good Saints defense is gonna just give more troubles for Kenny Pickett. He's probably gonna throw a couple interceptions, and it's gonna be a tough day. It'll be close because I mean these teams aren't all that good. Not too much separation in talent wise, but I see the Saints coming away in the end.
Yeah, we're not to once agree until consensus. I got New Orleans win consensus. And we got once again New Orleans winning this game against Pittsburgh. I feel like again there's gonna be a game where Andy Dalton goes off, and then the next week it's gonna go completely butt again. But yeah, I got Andy Dalton having a pretty decent game against these Pittsburgh Steelers. They really just lost cause. I mean, both teams are lost cause. With the quarterback situation, obviously New Orleans has their QB, but obviously injury. Pittsburgh, I mean, obviously another tough quarterback situation. They don't know if they were with Trubisky or Pickett, so it's kind of bad for them on both sides. But I got New Orleans with this win. You really explained it more thoroughly. So, I mean, both teams are bad. I mean, you don't really expect much. It's going to be a boring game. I would want to say low-scoring game, but again, I have a feeling Andy Dalton might go off, so Saints may win by like a good margin. And now moving on to our afternoon game, starting off with the Indianapolis Colts at the Las Vegas Raiders. So, I mean, both these teams are bad, struggling. But obviously, I have the Raiders coming out on top against these Colts. We already saw Ehlinger played last week. I mean, I don't really blame him. His O-line did give up 9 sacks. So, I mean, that was a really bad miscue for the whole offense in general. And that Indy defense is just really bad. And we already know the connection with Carr and Devontae. They have a very strong connection, but obviously the offense and defense both can't finish. But this is going to be the game where Las Vegas gets a pretty fair win here.
Just another agreement here. It's just mainly. I mean, I wouldn't say the Raiders if it wasn't how the Colts were looking. I would really want to say the Colts, but they're two struggling teams. The Raiders are the better team out of this. I mean, you would expect that Fresno State connection to at least finally start going off a little bit here. And I mean, who knows if Josh Jacobs can get something going. But I mean, I would have to say it's a relatively easy win for the Raiders here. Kind of maybe start to get their season back on track. It probably is too late to get a playoff push going, but I mean, who knows if they do end up finding something out. I mean, we saw what happened last year for them, so I mean, we'll see. We'll see what the Raiders can do. And obviously, Christian, let's move on to your game here. We got the Cowboys at the Packers. We got a pretty. I mean, it's a historic matchup, but then we see how both teams are trending. I'm gonna have to go with your Cowboys here. It's pretty surprising to say that the Packers would drop 6 in a row here after this, but can't really see it going any other way. The way Rodgers and the rest of this team has looked, and as great as the Cowboys have looked this season, gonna have to go with a pretty convincing Cowboys win, to be honest.
Yep, obviously gotta agree. Obviously, I was already gonna pick my Cowboys to begin with, but obviously my Cowboys have been doing really, really well. Our defense proving to be one of the best in the league right now. We are bad in the run though. I do have to say, and I mean Aaron Jones. I mean he is out, I think, with an injury. So I mean, thank God. Obviously not thank God, for players injury. I'm saying thank God on our side that our rush defense won't get embarrassed that bad. But still, prayers to obviously prayers to Aaron Jones for a strong recovery. And I mean, he was my lead back in fantasy, but it's not the point here. But yeah, I got my Cowboys. I really expect a beating against these Packers, with the stuff that happened in the playoffs between these two teams, the catch with Dez Bryant. He caught it, by the way. And in the disappointing ass loss in the divisional round in the 2016-17 season. So I really expect a big beating here against these Packers. I want this defense to go off, and Mike McCarthy kind of having a revenge game against the Packers. So nothing much said, but I got my boys really coming on top with a great win against the Packers. And then obviously we have both our games are actually back to back. We have the Arizona Cardinals at the Los Angeles Rams. This could possibly be our first disagreement, but I'm gonna have to go with the Cardinals on this one. Just for the sole purpose that the Rams, I mean, it just shows the Rams have really, really struggling here. I mean, so is Arizona. It's gonna be a two-sided game here most likely, but I feel like Arizona's gonna get the win against the Rams on this one.
Like I said, obvious disagreement here, but as much as we've struggled in the past couple weeks, I still am gonna have to just think that the Rams are gonna come away with this game just with a lot of factors. First off, I have to say just McVay has had just great success against the Cardinals. I think we've only lost the home game last year, and I mean, aside from that, he's undefeated against the Cardinals, which sure, the way that the season has been going, all those past records have kind of been thrown out the window. But I do, just the way we have the Cardinals number every single season, sure, they're hungry to beat us, but I have to say that continues, especially a home game at SoFi, which I mean can't even call them home games for how many opposing team fans just bombard it. But I mean, the way the Cardinals defense isn't as strong as some of the defenses we've been facing in the past. I am gonna have to say that I expect the offense to wake up a little more. I mean I don't really know what else I can really expect for these guys. The defense is really just doing all they can and really trying to put games away, and the offense just keeps sending them back out on the field. Can't really win games like that. It just comes down to how the offense can finish games, and it comes down to the O-line for the most part, and then obviously Matt Stafford kind of picking it up, hopefully getting him back into that form from last year, which not expecting that much, but at least to let him play like a competent quarterback. I would hope. And also to wrap up the Sunday slate, we'll have our Sunday nighter, pretty big Chargers-Niners matchup that we got here. It's I mean, they're both great teams, obviously, but the way the Chargers have looked, I'm gonna have to go with the Niners. Sure, I mean it hurts me obviously to say that the Niners would pick up another win here, but kind of have no other choice. The way they're looking, they're just with Christian McCaffrey and just this high-flying offense. What else? It leaves me no choice, especially with the Chargers. With Herbert not really having any options to throw to, it's gonna have to be a tight game. But I'll say the Niners come out on top.
We're gonna have to come with another agreement once again, but I got the Niners as well, especially the Niners have been struggling here and there, but I mean that defense is still a little solid, And with the way the Chargers are playing, both these teams are very inconsistent, and Justin Herbert also inconsistent with these slow starts, and it's really hurting them, because they can't live off game-winning field goals or field goal games by just the rest of the season. It's gonna have to come to an end. If the Chargers and Brandon Stanley, if they can't figure something out before these remaining games, then they're really gonna struggle possibly in the postseason if they make it. Really, all Jimmy G's got to worry about is don't turn the ball over and just obviously again be consistent, find his targets on time, and just basically be the opposite of what he usually does. He's just got to get used to the pressure, and Niners should be good, so that's why I'm gonna go with them. And that closes our Sunday slate, and then wrapping up our final game for Monday night, another primetime game for the Eagles, which is another division matchup for the East. The Eagles at Washington. The Commanders at the Philadelphia Eagles for Monday night. This one's another easy choice to go to, but sadly I have to go with the Philadelphia Eagles again. This should be a very easy 9-0 win for them. Although the way the Eagles sometimes struggle a bit, it could possibly be a close game with the Commanders. But if they get a strong start, and I would honestly in the first quarter, then obviously it's going to be probably an Eagles blowout. So I'm sticking with the Eagles.
I'm gonna have to agree with you. There is a slight part of me that really wants to pick the Commanders just because, football, how unpredictable it could be. Just these random shitty teams beating up on a great team. But I really don't believe it's gonna happen here. Who knows if Heineke just has another legendary game out of him? But I'm gonna have to see the Eagles going 9-0. With Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, just the entire Eagles team really is just they're just on another level this year. They're ahead of the competition, and especially in a primetime divisional matchup, I'm gonna have to say they take this one probably not too easily, because how these NFC East games get, but it'll be convincing enough, and obviously stay undefeated. And obviously with that's going to wrap up our Week 10 preview, and obviously also wraps up the 11th episode of the Beans No Ball podcast. Pretty smooth sailing so far. Obviously still hope to pick up a little more traction little by little, but still just having fun with it. That's what matters. Still freaking up at midnight recording. I'll knock out the editing at some point, but get this out soon to you guys. And I guess Christian, go ahead and close it out.
Yeah, man, just another very good successful episode. It was a very it's a late episode. It's currently 12:04 right now. So we just managed to get it off right as the day finished. But it's pretty good. Podcast, I would say, is doing well. Thank God that we stuck with this. Obviously, and we'd just to thank all you guys for sticking around with us, and like you said, pick up some traction hopefully by the end of the year. But thank you for everyone for sticking around. Just me and David obviously just happily talking about football. Love what we do, and really with you guys supporting us, and we're really thankful for that. And coming to another successful episode 11, coming to a close, and we'll see you guys on Sunday.